Hey, Vinny.
Yeah, Cardiff?
Do you want to go subreddit surfing? I wanna go subreddit surfing. Grab your phone, let's go subreddit surfing. Cause I wanna go subreddit surfing with you. We talk to folks from different subreddits because sometimes we just don't get it. We explore all kinds of subreddits. Subscribe now or you will regret it. Do you want to go subreddit surfing? I wanna go subreddit surfing. Grab your phone, let's go subreddit surfing. Cause I wanna go subreddit surfing with you. Vinnie and Cardiff go subreddit surfing. Mondays at 8 we are subreddit surfing. 10 is too late for subreddit surfing. So be here now for subreddit surfing today.
Wow, what a song.
Yeah. It gets the point out there multiple times.
Do you think anybody knows what the show is named after that song?
I hope so.
Oh.
Well, here you are. You are officially subreddit surfing. My name is Vinny. This is my best bud Cardiff.
Wow.
And tonight we are going to explore a brand new subreddit that we have never been to before.
No.
But before we do, Cardiff, how you doing?
I'm good, Vinny. How are you?
Never been better a day in my life.
Yes, you've had some technical issues today too, haven't you?
But
Again.
I've also had some major upgrades today. Some
Yes.
good things have happened. I'm feeling positive. And, I don't know how positive I'm going to be feeling after this episode, but we'll find out about that in a minute. Cardiff, let's take a second.
Oh, no.
Whoa, there we go.
Oh,
Let's
no,
take
there we go.
there we go. Let's take a second and shout out our big kahunas, shall we?
Yes, our big kahunas in the house.
For those of you who don't know, you could be a member of this channel. You could support it. All you have to do is hit join, and you can, too, be a big kahuna. You could be a big kahuna like Stoneman623, Arcona, Brinkomania, CMOS4044, Birch the Great, Mikey Shitted, Corndiff Zero, the world's worst artist, and Kinky Loco. They get to use exclusive emojis in the chat, and they get preferential treatment when it comes to making comments on the show.
And we've added a new benefit to our big kahunas.
What is that?
Oh, we talked about it before the show. Why don't you tell them?
I don't remember.
Oh, when you sign up and you join and become a big kahuna, you gain 2 inches in penis size.
That's
YouTube
right.
has the power. Yes.
Yeah, that if you have any issues and your penis does not grow, please send an email to YouTube support.
Yeah, send your dick pics to YouTube if there's no before and after shots. If you do not experience the growth that you were promised when you became a big kahuna.
So make sure you do that. Thank you for everybody who's here. Cardiff, do you want to do the Trucker Andy roll call?
Of course, I'll do the Trucker Andy roll call. Brought to you by Trucker Andy. Corndiff is in the house. Old Man Hound, and Corndiff is a big kahuna, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Kinky Loco,
Aloha,
another
big kahuna.
is
Aloha,
here.
Kinky Loco.
Christina Marie just became a big kahuna.
Hey, Chrissy, welcome to the party.
Stoneman623, another big kahuna, is here. Obnoxious John is here. Flutter Dashy 64 is here. Wiggles is here. Zero, Big Kahuna 0 is here. Johnny 1.0 is here. The Torn Quads are here. Zachariah Radziewicz is here.
Hey, Zachariah.
I hope I said your name properly. I apologize if I didn't.
I'm gonna say you butchered it, but you know what? You apologized.
Yeah.
And you tried.
Blinky Jedi is here. Jim Jones is here. Hope it's not the Jim Jones. John's Whippet Can is here. The Bears here. Matt Fish here. Arcona, the big kahuna, is here. Alt Companion. Mikey Alien Head Shitted, the big kahuna, is here. John Lewis is here. Stucho Depot is here.
Cardiff, we got first super chat of the night from Captain Kickass.
Thank you,
Cardiff
Captain
rules.
I agree. I also agree with our first super chat of the night.
Somebody's going to have to top that and remind them who really rules around here. But.
Yes, Cardiff twice. The Bladit cast is here. Can you believe
Christian?
the Bladit cast? Wow. He's here. Carter Christensen is here. Anthony Alicia is here. Johnny 1.0. Alt Companion. I think I said him. Fisker Whisker is here.
Hey, the commissioner of Major League Creepoff.
Tiberius with the 2 pounds. Liras?
That is whatever it is, I'll take it. Vinny was on fire in the last WATP. Skull
Skull indeed. I think with a few more of those super chats, you can buy another one of those jackets, Vinny.
I have plenty.
I'm just saying, I think it's Italian money.
It sticks together.
TK44 is here. Turbo Neil Breen is here. Oh, Umlaut is here. I think we can start. I mean, Unk is here. I think we've got the all-star chat, and we're at 69.
69. All
69.
right.
Hit that
Well,
like button, subscribe, do all that stuff. We should
yeah,
remind
and-
people about that. I've learned that from some people lately.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, if you want to listen to the show later, if you can't catch it all tonight, you could always download it, listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. It is available. Rate and review. Now, Cardiff, let's stop dilly-dallying
Yes.
and let's start talking about what's really going on.
What is going on, Vinny?
You and Opie, what is going on with this little footsie game you two are playing?
I think I'm out. As I said before, the Dabbleverse is flipsy flopsy upside downsy today. We've had John doing an interview, not doing an interview. We've had Opie on with primetime Alex Stein, of all people, on a stream today. So I think I'm out. I think he's now permanently doing a show with primetime Alex Stein.
Okay. Well,
wish
we'll
those
find out what
two-
happens.
I wish those two nothing but the best. But in case I am back, tune in Friday on the Opie show for all the vegetables. Possibly Thursday. I don't know if he's streaming Friday since it's a holiday.
I feel like it's the right thing to do is to give Ope the Opester a plug for all the wonderful plugs he gave us on his show this week.
Yes.
Thanks, Ope. We
Yes,
appreciate you.
That subreddit surfing logo was all over his YouTube this week. Thank you.
Thanks, Ope. Thanks,
Thank
Ope.
you.
Okay,
Can you
so
believe it though?
it's so weird.
Isn't
It's
that
so
the
weird.
weirdest thing?
You know, I don't know what to make of any of it. I don't know. I said my thoughts on WATP. You are just a peacemaker, Cardiff. If there ever was a peacemaker on planet Earth, I think it's you.
Yes, I'm going to try. I am going to try.
Peacemaker, shit stir extraordinaire. It is the Cardiff Electric.
Thank you for the $2, Joe Black. Dopey, love you guys.
All right. So, Cardiff, let's talk about what everybody is here for.
Yes. This is...
I will be hiding my face the rest of the stream.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
You're
The
welcome.
viewership just went up. There you go.
I got a new camera. I don't know why it keeps doing this, but we'll figure it out. We'll survive. Now, today's the camera hates me.
This is another subreddit we've been trying to get to for a while.
Yes, we've been trying to get a guest on, and we have a fantastic guest. Our subreddit today is 349,000 members strong.
Mm-hmm.
There are 628 people on there right now, surfing around, looking for stuff. And this subreddit is subreddit preppers. That's right, folks. These are the people who took all the lessons they got from scouting to heart. If something's going down, they want to be ready. And we're not just talking Armageddon time ready, folks. We're not talking about the end of the world. Some people are definitely when you go down this Reddit page, some people are. But, we just went through a pandemic. Whatever your opinions are on it, there was runs on supplies. People needed toilet paper. There was all sorts of things and lessons we should have learned as a society from that. And our guest today is going to tell us a little bit about that. His YouTube channel is called Texas Prepper Projects, and his name is Scott. He's from Austin, Texas, and I am super glad to welcome to the show tonight. Hey, Scott.
Hey, everybody. Good to be on.
Hello, Scott.
Hey.
And Vinny addressed kind of touched on the pandemic, and I think that was probably the first time you started seeing posts about preppers where people are like, oh, maybe these guys had the right idea all along. And I think was that something that you kind of experienced as the pandemic started? Where
I don't quote me on this, but I was on the prepper sub long before COVID, and I want to say right before COVID there were like 150,000 people on the sub. Wow. And then like 90 days into the pandemic, it basically doubled overnight. From like all these people like, oh my God, the world's ending. Like, what do I do? Let's get on.
Go to Reddit. That's the answer. Run to
let's
Reddit.
Find some answers.
Right. So the two industries that did well through the pandemic, or three industries, Lysol, Zoom, and preppers. Those are the three big ones.
No, the companies that sell ready-made food like Wise Company and Patriots packaged food. Oh, they did very well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've read articles about how their business went up by like 4 or 5,000% basically overnight, selling overpriced dehydrated emergency food. So that's the reality of it.
So what was your?
Like potatoes?
No.
Oh, well, yes. Number 10 cans of dehydrated potatoes and mashed potatoes, which is one of my favorite things. Good prepper food, but yes. Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
So, Scott, one of the things that you kind of mentioned to me, we had chatted just a couple minutes before the stream, is that you have been into prepping, you said, since you were a young child. And
Oh, yeah.
I feel like prepping is one of those things that we're all taught as a kid. You know, the story of the grasshopper, and the ants. Was it the grasshopper and the ants?
No.
What am I thinking
Tortoise
about?
in the hair.
Not the tortoise and the hare. The grasshopper who didn't store anything up for winter. He was out playing his fiddle all the time. I think that was a Disney cartoon. And the ants all got prepared. They were ready for winter. And when winter came, the grasshopper didn't have anything ready to go. And he begged for mercy from the ants, and they let him in. I think that's the story. I may have been on acid. Now, I guess I'm just trying to say is that it's something that kids are taught is to be ready, always be prepared. And as adults, I don't think it's a lesson most of us take to heart. How did you as a young person stay on the path of prepping?
So a couple of things. So I'm in my mid 40s, and I was a Cub Scout when I was in elementary school. So that was sort of part of it. And when I was like in the 4th or 5th grade, my mom got me a book. You remember the Hardy Boys? Does everyone remember the Hardy Boys? So a long time ago, back in the 80s, they put out a book called the Hardy Boys Survival Guide or something like that. And the first half of the book is the brothers building a survival kit, and then the last half of the book is like survival stories of them like having car accidents and getting lost in the woods and like using the survival kit that they built. And I read it over and over and over and over and over again, and like it just stuck with me. I became a teenager and got a car, and so I'm the guy with the jumper cables and the flashlight and the stuff like that in the back of the car. And then I moved to Florida. So I moved to Florida in 1999, and like less than a month after I moved to Florida, Hurricane Dennis hit. And I was living with my dad going to college, and my father did not have a functional flashlight in his house.
Oh, that probably triggered you pretty good, huh?
Yeah, and this is running up to Y2K, so I'm that old. So like I'm starting to catch the Y2K bug because like it's 1999, the world's gonna end, and then you move to Florida, and like here's a picture of a map of Florida, and here's Hurricane Dennis, that's just like larger than the state, and like where's the flashlights? Like where's like the bottled water? Oh, whatever. We just never thought about it because it always turns at the last minute, which it did. But it's like, hurricanes is one of those things, and I lived in Florida for a couple of years, but hurricanes is one of those disasters that boggles me because you can see it coming. You have a week's advance notice. It's not like an earthquake that just happens, but you have like 5 days advance notice on a hurricane. Like you see it coming.
Right.
How can you not take that seriously?
Well, it's because people in general can be lazy. And I think that it's one of those things where when something misses so many times, it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
Eventually the wolf shows up.
Yeah.
So, people sit around and go, oh, it's going to move the other way, just like you said.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always do that. Now, Scott, when you say you've been prepping since you were a kid, you're talking basic emergency preparedness? Are we talking you are preparing for a catastrophic end of the world, or are you somewhere in between?
Very basic preparedness. I say specifically, I am not a doom and gloom prepper. I'm not an end of the world kind of guy. I don't have 10,000 guns and stuff like that. But, as you said about COVID, so I'll skip forward a little bit about normal prepping. So here in Texas, like we had a boil water order a couple of years ago. And then, we had the Texas freeze. I had no power for 6 days, and it was 50
I remember that.
It was 50 degrees inside my house for a week. So there's just like normal stuff that happen. So, but to answer your question, just general preparedness. And then when I hit in my 20s and late 20s, I started to like get some money, then just slowly gather things over time, water bucket here, battery packet here. You don't have to spend $10,000 on MREs and guns to be prepared for like common things. Like,
Sure.
Do you have jumper cables in your car? And why don't you? I mean, who's never had a dead battery before?
Right.
You're
right.
Just really common things, but
yeah.
All of I have used several of my prepper items. My water storage, because we've had boil water order and pipes burst and things like that. So that's happened a couple of times. Texas freeze was a big eye-opening thing for me. We my wife and I have talked about it a couple of times. I, on one hand, as a prepper, I feel that I failed because I didn't think about the freeze situation. On the other hand, we did a lot better than a lot of other people. We had food, we had a gas stove, we had water storage, we had battery packs to charge phones. So we were a lot better off than a lot of people.
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure you know this. I live in Rochester, New York, Scott, and when you tell me it was 50 degrees inside of your house,
that's like put on like shorts and t-shirts, right?
Yeah, I'm lounging around in t-shirts.
Yeah. So I was born in North Dakota. So, and I have relatives in North Dakota and Minnesota, and they were all laughing at us. It's like, oh, it's like -4 outside. Okay, put on a long sleeve shirt. So I feel you, but that was the big joke, that in Texas, we don't get weather like that. So we don't know how to deal with ice and snow because it just doesn't happen in South Central Texas. For you guys, absolutely, but houses are not built that way down here because it doesn't happen here. So we as a whole state were just woefully unprepared because it's so uncommon.
So now you live in the most unprepared state in the union. That's always fun. That's always fun when you care very much about these things. Yeah. Let's hit up a couple of super chats here. Vinny's new camera adds 10 pounds. Thanks for the $2, John Lewis. Pork Boy 23, thanks for the $5. Says Cardiff is the Vin Diesel in the extended WATP Dabbleverse, but with more charisma.
Thank you.
I wouldn't argue with that. I want to thank some new members tonight. I believe Detroit just became a big kahuna.
Congratulations.
Hey, surfs up, big kahuna, Detroit. Now, Scott, your YouTube channel is Texas Prepper Project. What got you to start this? I mean, you were on this Reddit page, you were watching it boom. What made you decide to start making some videos yourself and putting content out there?
Well, I really like building stuff. I'm an electronics nerd, and I just like making things. So one of the in the prepper world, one of the big debates is solar generators, like Jackeries and EcoFlows. And so the question is, do you buy it or do you build it? I'm like, it's not that hard. If you've wired a car stereo, you can build a solar kit. It's not that complicated. So, and I really like building stuff. And so this actually spun out of the Texas freeze, because as soon as, the roads thawed and I got Amazon back, I started buying solar panels and battery packs and inverters and started building my own stuff. I'm like, let me fiddle around with this. And, I have a personal YouTube channel that I use to share family videos. So I was vaguely familiar with it. I'm like, let me, put this out there and, see if I can get any traction off of it. And, it was also when I was active on the prepper subreddit, I was answering the same questions like over and over and over again about ham radio and stuff like that. So I just
easier to post a link,
and post a link. Like, just go watch this video. It explains how wrong you are.
All right, Spaghetti Tooth John, RNPT. Thanks for the $4.99. Says I lived through the Texas freeze. Houses are not made to retain heat here. I had water bottles freeze in my house. It was bad.
Yep.
That does sound pretty terrible. When I was a kid, we had a thing called that is still referred to as the ice storm. I believe it was 91. And there was just like inches of ice around everything. Schools were closed down for a week and a half, losing power. Power wasn't restored to most of the city forever. And my mom, I feel like she's a prepper. She has a flashlight in every room. She's a little, I always thought she was a little weird, but you're making me turn around on this because
I tell you what. So I have slept with a flashlight under my bed since 1999, and was from Florida. So we had put up the hurricane panels, those Lexan panels on our windows, and they're black. And we had Hurricane Irene come through and hit like in the middle of the afternoon. And because I was in a new house, I couldn't find my way out of my bedroom because all the windows were covered up with the hurricane panels. And so my room was completely pitch black, and I couldn't find my way out of my own bedroom because
it's got to be a terrifying feeling.
So I've slept with a flashlight underneath my bed ever since.
Cardiff, you got a little support here, buddy. Why don't you read that one?
Oh, from River Archeron. Thanks for the $9.99. Showing my support for Cardiff, the most upstanding potato I know. Peace, thumbs up. Thank you, River.
Top spud.
Yes.
Agreed.
So yes, we do have a question from Kinky Loco, but I think he's confusing this with another episode we've done. He said flashlight, Kinky Loco.
Yeah, Kinky wanted to know how long you slept with a flashlight, and we're just not playing those silly games tonight. No. Kinky Loco.
So Scott, in general, I think you're not what most people pictured when we talk prepper. You just sound like somebody that's prepared because of the environment you live in. You're not the guy that a lot of people think are preppers, the fatigues off grid,
yep.
Stockpile of guns and ammunition and completely off grid. Those guys are very interesting too. Yep. Don't get me wrong. I would be happy to talk to someone like that as well. But you seem more mainstream prepper, just common sense, have some stuff on hand.
The fatigue and gun guys are typically known as survivalists. You have preppers and survivalists, and there's sort of debate as kind of what that line is, but typically a prepper is someone who's just thinking about emergencies. The survivalist is usually the term of like the guy who hasn't, like the Unabomber, who's like living out in the woods in a hut, surrounded by guns and canned food. That's usually what you kind of think of. And
that's I've never really understood that choice. I guess, the Unabomber's thing was he feared technology and what the world was going to turn into. And don't we all? But my question,
potato on the internet, so maybe he was right.
100%, kind of 100% right. Yeah. I guess my question is, who wins in a fight, preppers or survivalists?
That's a debate that happens on Reddit. That pops up every couple of weeks. Someone will post and say, why should I bother to buy canned food and be all prepared when some marauders are going to come through with their guns and just kill me and take it anyway?
That's a good point.
It's pretty dark, like I'm a big fan of Walking Dead. And so like you've got the Negans out there who are just going to wander around and kill everyone and take their stuff. But, again, this pops up on Reddit. There's prepping for Doomsday and prepping for Tuesday.
Okay.
So think about that for a second. Like what's more likely going to happen? That you're going to have a flat tire or a boil water order or zombie apocalypse? Like take your pick. I actually made a video on this on my 52 weeks of prepping, like what I am preparing for and what I'm afraid of. And then I played a little game. Like if I really deeply believed that zombie apocalypse was happening in a week, what would I do? Like if I really, really deep down believe that. And the answer is guns. And, living out in a compound somewhere surrounded by barbed wire. But, I love the guys on Reddit that are like buying special off-grid vehicles that are EMP proof and coronal mass ejections and things like that. It's like, yeah, but how about like losing your job? That's a disaster. Do you have 90 days worth of liquid cash to survive a job loss?
Well, why would I need to? I'm going to go live in the woods. So Alt Companion nailed it. This is kind of my feeling too. I think you hit the nail on the head here. Alt Companion says, my thing with prepping is, why do you want to survive so badly? Fucking thing sucks.
Well, that's an excellent question. And I know my wife is watching in the other room. She messed it all up for me because I had these grand plans of being a roving nomad in the apocalypse. And now I'm married and I've got 2 cats and like, I got to take care of her. So, I got to survive and take care of the family.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Family.
So Vinny,
Get off the grid, man. Get off the grid. Just run.
what would you say? So again, you've had to prep for. Well, I don't know if you prepped for the freeze in Texas because I don't know if anybody necessarily saw
Yeah.
that coming. But in terms of natural disasters, what would be harder, surviving prepping for a hurricane or prepping for, almost sub-zero temperatures and a freeze up, right?
I go back to what's more difficult. Hurricanes is one of those things that, like I said, you can see it coming. And so you've got a lot of time to make that decision of, do I stay or do I go? And if you live on the coast, leave and leave early. You don't want to be caught on I-95 with 300 million other people all trying to drive to Georgia. You ain't going to find a hotel room anyway.
Yeah.
The freeze, like I said, we did okay, all things considered. We were cold, but we were okay. And then, I bought a bunch of stuff afterwards. I have propane heaters and solar systems. And so, if we had a freeze again this year, I would, and the big thing is we moved to a new house. The house I was living in during the freeze was built in 1982 and had single pane windows. So I had ice on the inside of my windows in that house. So we moved to another house that's new. So there's a big plus. But extra propane tanks, and I have 2 big solar systems that I built that will run my electric blanket, so I ain't scared if it happens again. Well, we'll be all right.
Hey, Cardiff.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Vinny.
I was just gonna say, you got a shout out from Mint. She says it was fun seeing your cameo on HTM.
Thank you. It was fun. I was on for about 8 seconds, and it was great.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no. So speaking of propane, I do remember during the Texas freeze, hearing stories of people bringing their barbecues inside to warm themselves up. So can we just first of all tell everybody, don't do that, please?
Yes, that's a great way to die.
Carbon monoxide, a propane barbecue, and a propane heater. That's like, there are propane heaters that you can use inside. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're Mr. Buddy is the brand name, and they have a low oxygen shutoff. You should still have a external carbon monoxide detector just in case, but they will shut themselves off if the oxygen level gets too low. And I saw a video where a guy put one in an RV, closed and locked the windows, had meters and fire department standing by, and it was fine. It shut itself off.
I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm going to trust anything called Mr. Buddy. It sounds like a doll in a horror movie.
They're very well respected. It is an interesting name, but they are very well respected out there.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's always the things, the people that you hear in these disasters, the people that have no idea what you can and can't do. And again, there's no internet, there's no phone service, there's no nothing. It's not the time to learn during the disaster.
Test your stuff beforehand. Like, you don't want the apocalypse to be happening to learn. Like, this is a big thing with generators. Like, people go out and buy generators. Well, generators are actually really high maintenance. You have to change the oil in a generator like every 10 hours.
Spaghetti Tooth John spent $25,000 on a complete home generator system.
So do you have gas stored? Do you have oil stored? Do you have extension cords? Do you have an extension cord long enough to get from where you want to put your generator to where your stuff is? Like, there's like logistics involved with those things that you kind of don't find out until you try it.
She sounds like she's gone like whole home, like automatic. Power goes out, click, it's on. So I'm assuming that's like a natural gas system,
probably
or propane system. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on solar panels?
I am a big fan. If you look through my channel, I have 2 large, I'll call them large, but 2 different solar systems that I built myself after the freeze. So here's the pros and cons of generator versus solar. So generators will run a lot more stuff, and they're actually less expensive. You can buy a 3,000 or 4,000 watt generator for like $500 that will run all sorts of things. However, or there's maintenance. So oil, gas, like you got to store gasoline or store propane. But generators are really loud. And during the freeze, you could have heard a pin drop in my neighborhood. So do you really want to be the only person on your street with a generator?
Oh, everybody's be at your door.
Bingo. So
just want to charge my phone, just want to boil some water.
Yeah. Whereas the solar and the battery stuff, as long as you have sun, like during the Texas freeze, the sun was still out, so my solar system would have worked. yes, they are much less expensive, or much more expensive and not as powerful, but there's no gas, there's no oil, there's no noise. So, it all kind of depends. If I lived out in the country and I didn't have neighbors for miles, I would have both. I would have the generator run the big stuff and then the solar to run the smaller things. So I think there's an argument that can be made for both, but you just have to kind of think of like what works for your particular scenario.
Okay, so let's talk about these solar panels for a second, because this is a topic that's very interesting to me. You said you built them yourself?
Oh, yeah. It's not hard. Well, I didn't
Not
build
the
the solar
panels.
panels. I
Okay.
built the system. So you buy the panel. So solar system is basically made up of 4 parts. So you have the solar panels that then feed into a thing called a charge controller, which is just a circuit that regulates the voltage that comes out. And then the charge controller goes to batteries, lithium or lead acid, like a car battery, right? And then you have a thing called an inverter that turns that DC into AC to run normal household stuff. And it's not that hard. If you've ever installed a car stereo, you can do it. It's not complicated.
So generally, I guess the solar panels they're putting out 12 volts, so they're charging.
On a small scale, a very small system is typically 12 volts. So yeah, it's 12 volts it's 17 volts from the from the panel. The charge controller steps it down to 13 to charge a 12-volt battery, and then the inverter takes that 12-volt battery and turns it into 120 AC for your home appliance stuff.
So just the more storage is obviously the more batteries you'd have in your bank.
Yeah, so you said you're in Rochester, so you're way north. So solar is going to be a little tougher for you. I'm in Texas, so it's lower down on the hemisphere. So we have much more solar output than you do up there. So you have this balancing act between more panels and bigger battery and inverter to decide like how much you're going to run and how much sunlight, like it's called peak sunlight. So you think the sun is out for 12 hours a day. It's really not, because it moves across the sky, right? So in Texas and Arizona, we get 5.5 hours of peak sunlight. So there's a bunch of math involved of, okay, I want to run my pedestal fan 24 hours a day because it's 100 degrees outside. Well, that divided by the 5 hours of sun gives you like the number of panels you have to have and the size of the battery and things like that. So my solar system, when I designed my system, it was designed to run 2 things: my chest freezer, so I could keep my food cold, and my electric blanket, so I could keep my
ass warm.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So how big are these panels that you put up here that are powerful enough to control a heated blanket and a freezer?
Yeah. Well, electric blanket actually doesn't draw that much, as opposed to like a space heater. Space heater is ridiculous. Like people want to run their air conditioner and their space heater. Not happening. It's just not happening. But an electric blanket, because I tested it with a meter, actually draws very little power. So the panels, they're 200 watts. They're about 2.5 feet by 5.5 feet, and I have 4 of them. And I'm in a rental house. So they're in the garage. They're not installed on my roof. They're in the garage with a little stand I made, and so I just take them outside and open them up like an artist easel and aim them south.
Every day?
No, this is only if they're an emergency. Like this is my emergency prepper stuff. They just live in the garage, and then if we have another power outage or freeze or something, then I'll take them outside and have a really long cord to run to the batteries that are inside.
Do you have a battery? Your battery's connected now to like just always kind of keep them charged, or? So
I have 2 different types of batteries. There's 2 main types of batteries. There's lead acid, which is like your car battery, and then lithium polymer LiPo4, which is like the new hot thing. It's like your Tesla. So the lead acids will slowly discharge themselves. So I'll go out there like once a month and plug it into like a car charger, a car battery charger, just to top it up. The lithium batteries discharge very, very, very slowly. It's like 1% a year. So I'm not worried about charging the lithium one, but the lead acid I'll go plug in every now and then, about once a month, just to make sure it's topped up.
Very good question. Is a chest freezer the opposite of a sweater vest? Very good question from John Lewis.
Okay, John. Good stuff. So I asked you to do me you know what? I know what I wanted to ask you about your YouTube channel.
Yep.
You talked about doing, was it 52 weeks of prep? what is the goal of these videos for everybody?
So I started that earlier this year because I have friends who are preppers and friends who are not preppers that I'm trying to like encourage to get into this. And so I was trying to there's lots of like checklists out there for preppers, like week 1 buy 10 pounds of salt, week 2 buy 10 pounds of flour, but there's not a one size fits all. Like I have a wife and 2 cats, and then I have friends who have 4 kids. Like there's not like one. I can't just put out a book and say buy this, even though there's hundreds of books on Amazon. So what I was trying to do is try to make a series of videos of like holistic, just like to get you thinking. Like, video number 1 is, what are you preparing for? Like, decide like what you're afraid of. You can't take a road trip if you don't know where you're going. It's gotta,
Sure.
It might change along the way, but you gotta have to kind of know what you're aiming at. So I started to create this series called 52 Weeks of Prepping, and I outlined a couple of months worth of just topics and ideas just to let the viewers kind of think for themselves of, how would I handle this situation? How would I handle kind of this question that I'm posing?
So
Yeah.
you made a comment there, but you had 2 cats. How do you prep for pets?
We prep by not leaving. That becomes the great debate between like bugging in or bugging out. And, my cats hate going to the vet, and I can't imagine driving through the apocalyptic wasteland, hearing my cats crying in the back seat. So, and trying to carry them around. So we're just staying put, and we've got, 50 pounds of cat food. And, when that runs out, then they're gonna have to learn how to hunt.
Interesting. I thought that you really did kind of make a point here that I'm stuck on in my brain. Picking what you're afraid of and prepping for that. Is that like a mental solve kind of a thing? Is that something that's just supposed to make you feel better? Because a lot of people's fears are generally irrational. Like not everybody's afraid that I'm not going to be able to watch TV for a day or two. Oh, Cardiff is. He gets.
Oh yeah, it's very scared.
So
tell Cardiff he doesn't have enough power to stream for 5 minutes. He'll have us go start coughing up blood.
I have a generator set up just for the studio. Everything else in this house can fall apart, but this studio, I can go live to the internet anytime.
Oh, are you sure? Do you have satellite internet so that way you can get online?
I gotta go buy satellite internet.
You need to go get some Starlink. Yeah.
Now, it's funny we just brought up the internet. I was having a conversation with my other co-host on the Creep Off, Carl, today, and we were talking about someone that we both know, Cardiff. I believe you delivered some stickers to him, and he is a prepper, survivalist, I believe, combo, from what they made it sound. And one of the things, his legitimate fear is the internet disappearing. Because if the internet gets turned off, commerce stops. Now, Carl's thoughts on that were, well, someone will fix it relatively quickly, I would assume. And I'm probably going, yeah, but if the internet did disappear, how would that affect the world, Cardiff?
Well, I'm trying to think, because the last time we had a major power outage would have been maybe 2004, 2005. So I don't think we were as dependent on the internet. And that was a few days where, cell phones were hit and miss. Definitely no internet. Phones weren't like nothing was. We're actually no. I think at that point, the people that were bragging were the people that still had like an old plugged-in landline.
Yeah.
Where so they could call people, right? So
a good example of this, this happened a couple of years ago, the Nashville bombing, where somebody bombed a AT&T substation, and like cell phones went down and internet went down, like in central Nashville. And during the freeze, our internet went down and cell phones like went to a crawl. So yeah, you learn real quick about like communication. It's one of the things in one of my videos. I have a $20 pocket FM radio. Yeah, the Wikipedia thing. I just recently did that. It ends up being a lot bigger than 30 gigs, but But a plain FM $20 FM pocket radio was much more interesting than all my ham radio gear. Like the FM radio stations had backup generators and kept news and stuff going. So there's something to be said for having a plain old AM FM radio laying around.
Yeah, and I wonder how long that's going to be around though. Like at some point, broadcast radio, I think, is going to go away. But that is always kind of the backup. You always have that AM or FM radio there. But yeah, this is a post I saw.
Yep.
As you alluded to, you could download Wikipedia onto a flash drive. It only takes about 30 gigs. So again, if you want to have a backup of that, but I think that's more of a. You think that's more of a doomsday?
How big is the Pornhub backup? You think?
That question came up. It's multiple petabytes of data. Someone actually asked that.
So like all the general knowledge in the world is 30 gigabytes, but there's a couple thousand times more than that just in porn. Okay.
And so, I recently did the Wikipedia thing just as an experiment, and that 30 gigs is only if you download the English version with no pictures and no videos. If you download the whole thing, it's about 100 gigs. But you buy
That's still nothing.
It's still nothing. You buy a 1 terabyte external hard drive for $80. So like whatever, you know.
If doomsday is on the horizon, I would ask that everybody put their wives in charge of backing up Wikipedia, because I think, as Vinny has alluded to, we might look at those precious thumb drives and think, well, I don't know if I need Wikipedia or I need
30 gigabytes is Vinny's waste. Thanks, John's Webcan. A good one.
But yeah, I think I don't know. I think the no internet, I think that's where we would really start to see people shit hitting the fan if we were as a large chunk of society going 3 days, 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah. Like with no TikTok,
no data, no. Yeah. I think people would really start losing their minds.
Yeah. But, the internet was designed, during the Cold War specifically to not be able to be taken down. Like there's so many interconnecting points that if one to take down the entire internet, I don't think would be possible without like destroying the whole world, like, Independence Day style. It was designed in such a way that it interconnects that it couldn't be taken down.
What about solar
or be stopped?
What's that?
What about solar flares? Come on.
So yes, coronal mass ejections and solar flares. Yeah, that's a thing. But you know what? If a CME, take a tubes. If a coronal mass ejection or solar flare hits us, we're going to have much bigger issues to be worried about than getting on Reddit or Pornhub.
Like what, Scott? What would happen?
Name 7.
Name 7. How about like half of the Earth being burnt to a crisp?
One.
Okay. I don't know. The other half of the Earth being like 500 degrees for another 1,000 years beyond that.
Okay, 2.
Still waiting for one that
that was positive.
More important.
It was more important.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad stuff that can happen at any moment, folks. Just remember that. And I'm not saying that because I want everyone to live their lives in fear. Yeah. But maybe there is a reason we're talking about prepping tonight. Maybe there's some people who need this message in their lives.
And maybe they would like to go and buy a subreddit surfing emergency preparedness kit, now available at subreddit surfing emergency preparedness kit.com.
That doesn't exist, Cardiff.
Oh, no?
Yeah.
Well, it should.
Well, if you would like to find out where you could get your subreddit surfing preparedness kit, I would start by becoming a member of this subreddit and supporting it. And maybe we'll send you the link.
Yes, be a big kahuna.
Yeah. Be a big kahuna. So, world's worst artist, as Vinny's right, live in fear. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but Scott makes a lot of sense. We're talking about a solar flare. Mm-hmm. Who's going to control that? What does humanity, we have nothing on the force of nature, folks. Yeah. We have nothing.
Bruce Willis is not going to solve a solar flare.
So Slunk brings up one of my questions I was going to bring up to you: medications, antibiotics, even medical procedures. I'm sure, Scott, you have a first aid kit, and I'm sure you have a great first aid kit. But like how big is your first aid kit? Do you have surgical tools in there? Are you able to? I've got a post I pulled up about somebody, talking about dental care
Yeah.
in the event of a long-term, let's say
So
Armageddon, right?
Step 1, training. First aid, CPR, stop the bleed, wilderness first aid. So stop the bleed. This is a big thing right now, is wound packing and tourniquets for gunshot wounds. That's what it's for. It's how to put on a tourniquet properly and wound pack if you get shot. And
Jesus
that's just
Christ.
that's a sad thing, but what's more likely, a coronal mass ejection or a shooting? So training. And then, yes, I have first aid kits all over the place. So I have one in my glove compartment, one in the back of the car, a household one. I'm an office dweller. I have one in my desk drawer. But it's really not crazy. I mean, like the most exotic thing in my first aid kit is a tourniquet. So I don't do sutures or antibiotics or anything like that, because if you go through training, just simple things like putting butterflies or duct tape over a wound is probably as good as it's going to get. There actually was a great thread on Reddit, one of the positive ones, the Prepper thread, a couple of days ago, from a doctor, and someone was asking them about like suturing yourself up. He's like, that's a really bad idea. Like, it looks really cool in the movies, but in reality, you're just going to fill that cut full of really nasty, gross stuff. And then you're going to get an infection and die a really slow, painful, terrible death. So irrigate it, clean it out, pack it, and get to the emergency room. This idea that you're going to, needle and thread it and stitch yourself up, that just is not true. It's just not going to happen.
What about I'll just ask you to maybe speak on the doomsday preppers side of it. So things like medications, what do they do for, like, how much can they possibly keep where it doesn't doesn't go expire, I guess, right?
Yeah, and so this gets into one of the other great debates on Reddit, which is fish antibiotics, fish mocks. So, to get normal antibiotics, you have to have a prescription from your doctor. But this has been going on for several years, this debate that I can go to PetSmart and buy fish mocks, which is amoxicillin to feed your fish to cut out this scale that they get. And this is back and forth debate. One world says it's the same stuff as you get from Walgreens, just branded different, so that way they can mark it up and make more money off of it. It's the same thing. The other school of thought is, well, it's not made to human consumption quality control standards, so you don't really actually know what you're putting in your mouth. And then the last debate mostly comes from doctors is, yeah, you may or may not have like healthy medication, but do you know how to administer it? Do you know how to look at the gunk growing on your arm and know what kind of infection it is to know what kind of medication to take? So there are a couple of companies. Jace Medical is the big one, JASE. Jace Medical are doctors on call that will write you a prescription. And I think the legitimate usage is like if you're going to go backpacking in Guatemala or someplace like that and you want to have some medications in case you get sick, they will write you a script for it. But that's like with the doctor. So that's really expensive. But you can actually like do a WebMD with a real doctor and they will kind of walk you through it. But wow. I have friends who are pharmacists and I've asked them this question. So no, I personally would not go to PetSmart and buy fish antibiotics to stockpile for the apocalypse.
John Lewis says fish mocks. What about Zoomox?
No, and it's MOX. It's fish MOX, fish mox, amoxicillin. But no,
don't tell the people how to get it. Okay, let's not
save the fish mox for the three of us.
Yeah, but I personally wouldn't do it. But in my first aid kit's really nothing exotic. It's gauze and tape and Band-Aids and Pepto-Bismol. And like I said, the most expensive, most exotic thing in my first aid kit is a tourniquet, and they're about $30. But it's worth your life if you get shot to strap down a tourniquet.
Yeah, I would say that $30 now to save your life later, not a bad investment.
No,
I believe in investing in me.
When we go back, I go back looking at some old movies back from the 50s, 60s, where bomb shelters were the the craze. Everybody wanted to dig up their backyard, put a bomb shelter in. Is that still happening? Are people still digging bomb shelters, having bunkers?
Oh yeah, there's another great YouTube channel. I think they're based out of Texas, Atlas Shelters, and these guys make very the Atlas Shelters makes these very elaborate underground bunkers, and they said that when COVID started, their business, of course, skyrocketed. I personally think that bunkers are silly unless you live in a place that gets hit by tornadoes. Then a tornado shelter makes sense. But you know, World War III, nuclear holocaust, underground bunkers. Sure, I mean you've got a couple of $1 million to blow. Have at it. You know, there's this other theory that you can buy a metal shipping container and have your buddy with a bobcat dig a hole in your backyard and bury a shipping container. That's a really good way to die.
That's
they're
not
designed to do that.
Yeah, there was a dude who built a whole doomsday shelter out of old school buses.
Yep, I've seen that.
Yeah.
I just learned shipping containers aren't good just from watching The Wire. that vent hole gets smushed.
Yeah. Oh, The Wire was great. I missed that show. It was a fantastic show.
No bueno.
Yeah, no bueno is correct. Now, Scott, I asked you to do us a little bit of a favor tonight, and I really am interested to see, you know, what you picked out for us. I asked you to look at the Reddit page, r/preppers, and to maybe point out some of these posts that are absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Some of these posts that people post that have terrible advice, that maybe what sounds like pseudo wisdom, you know, maybe help point our listeners in the right direction to survive if they ever needed to.
Okay.
What do you got for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't pull up any. I thought you had some that you wanted me to take a look at.
Well, Cardiff, why don't you go ahead and show them some of those?
I can outline because on the prepper subreddit, there's like 5 topics that get posted over and over and over again. So, you know, I can buzz you through, you know, a couple just right off the bat. But
I just want to say you were on your way to being one of our best guests ever. You better hope you got a good redemption here. You gotta turn this around, Scott.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's start. So there were a couple of these: personal experience, Hurricane Ian, the average. So I didn't pull a lot of like I don't think I pulled any of the ones that are going to make you go nuts. The ones that are going to send your sense. Wait, there was one I had here. Hold on, I did one. So yeah, here's one.
That one was pretty good. I saw that.
Thoughts from a dentist.
You know, he's a dentist, and he went through, just like I was talking about, like suturing your arm up. He's talking about, like, you know, trying to, you know, use a drill to drill out your own tooth, you know, in a foxhole while you're fighting off zombies. He's like, it's just not happening. They do make refill kits, temporary fillings, but they're temporary. It's, you know, I'm hiking in Mount Zion for a week and I have a filling pop loose. So I put this putty in to limp me back home for a couple of days so I can go see a real dentist. That absolutely makes sense.
Interesting.
Hello, Deepak Feinberg.
Yeah. So what is this guy saying, Cardiff?
He's saying just forget about it. Like, you're not going to be doing dental surgery in the end of the world. Brush your teeth.
Yeah, really the point of it is brush your teeth. And if you're only going to brush your teeth once a day, do it at night. That's really what it comes down to. And just keep your fucking teeth clean and you should be fine in most cases. But yeah, I guess, again, I look at a lot of this stuff. I'm probably looking at prepping more from the doomsday side of it. Like, people looking at it like that, it's like, yeah, what do you do? You know,
well, if you really want to, like, not sleep again, the sister subreddit to preppers is called R Collapse, and it's the worst of our preppers. It's just if you don't want to sleep and you like horror movies, go to R Collapse, and it's class 5 solar flare misses Earth by 100 miles and H1N1. Like, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just predicting the end of the world and crying about it. And, you know, the people who have decided that they don't want to die sort of migrate over to our preppers every once in a while and like, oh, I saw this on R Collapse. What do I do about it? How do I get ready?
So what happened on our Collapse when the pandemic started to hit?
Oh man. You know, I was on
Oh,
our
no.
collapse.
Was it just every post? I was right. I was right. How
No,
many times can you post? I was right.
Yeah, it's you know, this is now 28 days later. You know, a lot of political conspiracy theories. We'll just leave it at that. But it went downhill very, very, very fast. I was on Arc Collapse for a little while just for entertaining reading, but it was terrible for my mental health, so I exited out of that. But if you want to go down a black hole, that Arc Collapse is a black hole.
I feel like the mental health aspect of this is a big thing that we haven't touched on yet.
Mm-hmm.
We joked about, being afraid everything sucks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are people who live their lives legitimately terrified that things are going to go down any second.
Yeah.
In your opinion, and I think I know the answer to this, but in your opinion, it's better to be safe than sorry. But do you think it's good to be thinking about the fear? I know you kind of said you have to, choose the fear to pick how you prepare, but do you really think you should be thinking about this all the time?
I'll answer your question, but I actually interviewed my wife on my channel, and I asked her the question, like, what's it like to be married to a prepper? And she says, I love it because I know that you're thinking about these things. I know that you're trying to take care of me and the family, and that you've got these things going, that it makes her feel better. To your point, talk about mental health. You fight the fights that you can fight. Like you prep for Tuesday, not for doomsday. I try to be as logical and rational as I can. Power outages, water loss. The really far out, the coronal mass ejections and the CMEs and the EMPs and the nuclear attacks. Like, unless you're Bill Gates, there's really not a lot you can do about it anyway. So, I don't spend a ton of time thinking about those things because there's just nothing I can do about it. And this is what happens on Reddit is, I'm preparing for total and complete financial collapse of, the US government. I'm like, number one, that's not going to happen. And number two, the answer is, if you're that worried about it, leave the country.
Right.
How do you prepare for that? Unless you're a billionaire, you can't. So, you pick your battles, fight what's in front of you.
You buy gold, says the gold salesman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there was some great anecdotal evidence of, or not anecdotal, but some evidence from people who lived through like the collapse of Venezuela and people in Ukraine. They're like, yeah, this guy tried to give me a gold bar. I'm like, I can't eat that. Bic lighters were the currency in Ukraine and in Venezuela because you have to start a fire to stay warm and cook food. So Bic lighters were worth tons of money. I mean, what was this gold bar going to do me? I can't eat it.
How many Bic lighters do you own?
Not enough. I think about a dozen. But
so you're good for a while.
Yeah, I'm stopping at 7-Eleven on my way home. I'll take a case, please. I'm going to be a millionaire in the apocalypse.
That's right. You'll be apocalyptic millionaire. Absolutely.
Vinny, here's one I thought you would appreciate. Someone doing some experiments. Pasta cooks perfectly by soaking it in cold water for over 3 hours and then boiling it for just 1 minute to cook the starch. Very fuel efficient. Is that how you?
What do you want me to say to that, Cardiff? Why did you think that I would find that so interesting?
Because of your jacket.
It's a little cold.
No, because Italy. Hey, we eat
Italy.
pasta. Hey.
Okay.
No?
I don't say that all you Minnesotans ride around on moose.
No, we don't.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So I think you missed this earlier. Yeah, I was born in North Dakota and I have relatives in Minnesota. So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
You
where Cardiff is. Minnesota. That's where Cardiff is.
You betcha.
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
So again, things like this, some tips, again, some sharing, because you want, if you're going to be without power for a while, you want to reserve your fuel. That's the one thing I think that would panic me the most. Like if I see, you know, next gas station is 100 miles away and I've got 150 miles left, I'm panicked. Like I'm panicked. I need that scares the hell out of me. So
Okay.
even thinking that, not having the, go ahead, Vinny.
I'm sorry, Cardiff. I'm reading this post you just put up here, and I have to ask a question here.
Sure.
Pasta cooks perfectly by soaking it in cold water for over 3 hours and then boiling it for 1 minute to cook.
Yes.
Well, if you're trying to save energy, you still have to boil the water.
Yes, but you don't have to boil for 10
boiling
minutes.
it for 1 minute versus boiling for 30 minutes is, you know.
But what are you going to do with the water after you put the pasta in it?
So that is a great question. And, you know, so rice and pasta are like the prepper staples. And I'm kind of up in the air on that because cooking rice or pasta uses up a lot of water. It requires a lot of water to boil rice. So now you could use that water to flush your toilet.
Okay.
So like if you have a pipe burst or something like that, you know, you have water that you don't necessarily want to drink, you could use that to flush your toilet with, like rainwater collection. So there are ways to use water multiple times that are not necessarily ingesting. I think I asked this question once before, and there's some other cooking you can do with the starch water from rice and pasta. You can bake with it or something. There's some other use for it, but
interesting. Well, you have to. My point is, you have to use the energy to get the water. Yeah. Okay. So John Lewis, question for me, $2 in the super chat. What would Vinny put on a prepper pizza? The ears of my enemies and anyone who tries to take mine. That's the answer. Dave Delfier.
Wow. Bird.
I'm temporarily in Minnesota, but live in New Jersey. Culture shock. I bet. And Minnesota smells a lot better.
I think we missed Birch the Great here, one of our past guests. Thoughts on Tim Pool buckets or My Patriot Supply?
So what he's talking, My Patriot Supply,
is that Rush Limbaugh's thing? Or similar to that?
It's similar. It's prepper food. They make a lot of money by scaring you and putting prepper in the title. Okay. Don't buy pre-packaged food. You are significantly better off taking that $150 that you're going to send to My Patriot Supply and going to your local grocery store and buying canned or pantry food that you already eat. This is something we learned during the freeze, during Prepper Wife and I learned during the freeze, because I had a bunch of canned food and stuff that I bought as COVID was ramping up, thinking that the world was going to shut down. So then we bring out like all this canned stuff during the freeze that we had never eaten before and found out we didn't like it. So it was a flavor we'd never tried before. Like, oh, this, and like Dax hams, like just tasted like slime. So one of the prepper mantras is store what you eat what you store.
What do you get in one of those buckets?
It's dehydrated food. And here's the other thing about those buckets is they say this is 72 meals. Yeah, it's 72 meals at like 150 calories.
Oh,
so I don't know who they're feeding. So you get like a little package of Tang and a little baby thing of dehydrated macaroni and cheese, and then like some powdered sugar as like dessert or something like that. So incredibly overpriced. And I think there was a class action lawsuit against one of these companies about them overstating this like 150 meals, but again, if you read the fine print, it's like 100 calories. They're calling that a meal. But if you look at what you're getting versus what you're paying for versus just going to your grocery store and buying chili or beef stew or something that you have eaten, canned goods have years and years and years shelf life on their own. Like you don't need to buy special Patriot survival food. Just go get some Hormel chili. You've already eaten it. It'll last for years in the can anyway.
Yeah. It's important to realize, folks, that people who are in that industry that are marketing things specifically towards preppers, you know, I can't just say are in it for the money. Maybe some of them do believe, you know, that things are going to end or for whatever reason, you know, want to care about actual supplies for people. But the majority of them, if they're putting preppers and survivalists on the can, they know who they're selling to. And they know that they have to, as you said, Scott, instill a little fear to get these
Yep.
things moving off the shelves.
Yep.
Animal Kelly says Vinny would make a pizza pemmican to prep.
Yeah.
Prep, I bet. Yeah, probably.
Do you know what pemmican is?
No, but tell me what it is.
Pemmican is a survival food that's been around for centuries. It's what Lewis and Clark used to go across the country. The Indians invented it hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's basically like powdered beef jerky mixed with fat and nuts and berries and stuff like that. And it's incredibly calorie dense and like doesn't expire. So
is that like kind of the best bang for your buck? If you only have so much shelf space, that's that's what you really want to have in your stockpile. That's kind of
folks, please send me your pemmican pizza recipes. I'm very interested.
You creep off challenge.
I looked into making pemmican like just for the fun of it. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but if you're going to be one of these bug out guys who's going to go out into the woods to try to survive the apocalypse, I think it's the most calorie dense thing that you can make that doesn't require refrigeration. But I'm just going to have my chili and my stew and all of my things that I normally eat. Like I had macaroni and cheese during the Texas freeze because I had gas and I had water, and so we had mac and cheese during the blizzard.
What about Life Straw? Datois asking, yay or nay?
So Life Straw's got a pretty good reputation.
What is the Life Straw? I'm not familiar.
Life Straw is a water filter. So it's this big tube that's about this long. And they're like $10 or so. They've got a pretty good reputation. They've got good certifications. The problem with the Life Straw, like the $10 one, is it's literally made for you to put the straw in your mouth and stick your face down into a stream and suck water out of the stream. There's no way to store that water. It's just like an immediate use thing. So there's better versions of the Life Straw. Like I have a Sawyer Squeeze where you have this little bag that you scoop the water into and you squeeze it through a filter into another container. So you could take that water with you. So the $10 Life Straw, think about how you're actually going to use it. It's made for people who are backpacking and just need to lean over and get a drink. But there's no way to collect that water to cook with. But Life Straw does have some bigger versions that like have a bucket that you scoop water into, and then it puts the water into a different container. So the brand is good. Very highly rated. They've got good certifications, unlike other prepper companies. But just look at the model that you're buying and think about how you're going to use it.
What do you think is the silliest product you've ever seen marketed to preppers?
EMP bags.
Okay, what's an EMP bag?
Okay, so you know what an EMP is?
Electronic magnetic pulse.
Electromagnetic pulse.
Okay.
So you ever seen Ocean's 11, the first Ocean's 11 movie, where they pull up that trailer and they set off this big electronic pulse that shuts down power?
With Sammy Davis Jr.?
No, not the original.
I'm kidding. I gotcha. Yeah.
So that's an EMP, right? So where they shut down the bank stuff. So I'm ready for the flame on this one because EMPs are a hot topic for me. So EMPs are created by a nuclear explosion. So if you are close enough that you would be affected by an EMP, you have bigger problems to worry about than whether or not your radio is working or your tablet is working, because you're probably going to be incinerated by the nuke or have nuclear or ash fall on you. Now, the reason why EMPs are so big is two things. There is the Prepper Bible book called 1 Second After that was written, I think, in the 70s or 80s. It was one of the first apocalyptic prepper books where there was an EMP bomb was set off and basically all electronics in North America shut off.
Okay.
Anything that runs on electricity stopped working. And so it's goes through the end of America because there's no more electricity. So people have read 1 Second After and they're all freaked out about EMPs. There are also, this is a true situation. There is a nuclear test called Starfish Prime in the 50s or 60s where they set off an atomic bomb out in the Pacific Ocean, and it fried telephone lines in Hawaii and California, which were thousands and thousands of miles away. So, oh my God. And it wasn't a particularly big bomb. So, oh my God, if a nuke goes off, things are going to be fried 5,000 miles away. So those are true statements. But the idea, this was the big fear remember the Chinese weather balloon a couple of weeks ago?
People keep mistaking me for it.
So that was the big fear, is that it's a secret EMP bomb from the Chinese. And
Can I just say I don't like that Vinny stole a joke from me there, because I was ready to. You just saw that in my eyes, didn't you, Vinny?
You just set him up for it.
One of us is a professional potato. Don't you forget it.
So this was the big thing during the Chinese weather balloon thing, that it was secretly an EMP bomb and they were going to fry all of America with it. But for it to, and EMP bombs do exist, but they cover a couple, it's like in Ocean's 11, they cover a couple of city blocks, not like the entire Northern Hemisphere. For the Northern Hemisphere to be affected, it has to be a nuclear missile that goes off like hundreds of thousands of miles up in the air. So the idea that you can like take a Ocean's 11 style bomb and hijack a Cessna and fly over Kansas and detonate it and it will take out North America is just bunk. It's just not going to happen. So these shadow EMP bags to put my tablet in, or a metal tactical trash can. That's another good prepper one. All metal trash can to put your radios in, and then you seal it with
the tactical trash can.
Tactical trash can. That's a search term. Tactical trash can, using an all metal trash can as a Faraday cage. And I think you had that pulled up on Reddit. Like, people are buying prepper vehicles, from the 70s and 80s before computers were in cars, thinking that they will survive an EMP. But if you're close enough to be affected by an EMP, you're probably dead. If you're far enough away that you're alive, then the EMP is probably not going to hurt you. And EMPs are also black magic. Like, radio waves do really weird things. So if you're facing this way, you might be affected. If you're facing this way, you might not be affected. Like, right. I'm a ham radio operator, and radio waves do really weird things.
Stop bragging. Okay. So hold on a second. A lot of people are saying they don't think, I'm reading the chat here, a lot of people are saying that you're not convincing them that they shouldn't be worried about EMPs. And what do people think that it's really going to do? Like, what is the real fear there? That's just going to shut down all the electricity grid for the country.
Well, not just the grid. The grid is different. Because solar storms and cyber hacking could take down the grid. But the fear with an EMP is anything that runs on electricity will not work. Like my flashlight, an EMP is going to fry my 97-cent flashlight because it has a circuit board inside of it, and an EMP is going to cook it. And so electricity will no longer work anywhere.
So just essentially it would fry everything electronic that existed at that was hit by it. But if you were to bring something from another area, it would still work. Like, it doesn't like it.
Yeah,
if it stop electricity from working in that area, it just destroys all the devices in there.
Correct. An EMP. So here's my ham radios. An EMP is this big radio pulse that is so powerful that anything as a complicated circuit board fries. But if you're behind shielding or in a concrete bunker or
we don't want to know.
Don't want to know. So if I have shielded my radio in a Faraday bag or a Faraday cage or a tactical trash can, then that should shield me from the EMP blast.
Now, hold on. I had it and then I lost it. Oh, there it is. Go ahead, Carter, if you could read that one.
Yeah, Dave Dallifer or Bird, thank you for the $5. Shoot down a Chinese balloon and you're trigger happy 30 minutes later. I think that's an MSG joke.
I get it. It's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. EMP. Vinny's fear is an EMP. Eat my pizza. All right.
Okay, hold on. Wiggle says this. EMPs only fry electronics if they're on.
I agree with that, but I think there's so much information and disinformation about EMPs because it's the internet. So, yes. And there was some testing about 15 years ago where the US government did an EMP blast on a bunch of vehicles to see if they would survive or not.
Interesting. Deepak Feinberg said EMPs are nonsense. SHTF electronics won't matter. Shit hit the fan. Electronics won't matter. Dams in major water have redundancy that will lock them down. Huh. Interesting. I don't know, man. They scare me.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm prepping.
Yeah. What's an EMP going to do to Cardiff Electric?
We don't want to know. We don't want to know the answer to that question.
He's going to turn into a mashed potato real quickly.
Oh, no.
It'll be like a microwave.
Yeah, I need to know this too. Will an EMP fry my stream deck?
You need to put it in a tactical trash can and you'll be all right.
Well, I liked the joke somebody said earlier. Vinny's looking for a tactical pizza box. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Animal Kelly, thanks for the $10, says, I don't know about EMPs. I'm more concerned about enough med supplies and books to handle injury/health. Appreciate Tex bringing the subject up.
Yeah. What are you more concerned about? You know, like getting shot at work or getting injured at home, you know, a cut, a scrape, a burn, or an EMP, you know, medical training, get training, but medical training, medical supplies. I mean, this is stuff that just happens. I read in one of the school shootings or workplace shootings we've had recently that there was a high survival rate because the people, they happened to be in an area where a bunch of people had this was at the Boston bombing. At the Boston bombing, you had all these EMTs who were combat vets, and so they all had tourniquets and had dealt with shooting in Afghanistan, and so they were able to apply direct pressure and tourniquets and do wound packing from these horrific bombing injuries because they had the experience from being over in the sandbox. So. Yeah, what's more likely, you know, a workplace violence situation or an EMP or a CME or something like that. So Tuesday, not doomsday.
Interesting. Cardiff, do you have any more stories over there we want to peek at on the Reddit page?
Sure. Let me pull one up here.
I've got another good prepper or another Reddit
dumb product.
Another a Reddit question that comes up very frequently that's hot on my grumpy list.
Lay it on me.
So this question gets posted about every 2 or 3 days. What walkie-talkie do I buy to talk to my friend who lives in the next town over that's 20 or 30 miles away?
I don't think you're allowed to buy it. I think isn't that like military grade stuff that you would have to get for that?
It doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So there is a prepper, a product called a Baofeng radio that's sort of a ham radio, not really. Well, yeah. See, there's a prepper win right there. The wife was rolling her eyes, and then all of a sudden, you know, he was right.
But please go on with your we'll go to this. You're talking about Baofeng radio.
You want to buy and because they're like $20 on Amazon, they're like $20 or $30, and they are radios and they do work, but they don't work very well. But I promise you that they're not going to go 30 miles. And how do I know that? Because I've tried it. Because I am a ham radio operator and I have very expensive radio gear. And I have a friend who's a ham radio operator and he has very expensive gear. And unless you live, the one time it did work, there actually is a guy who made it work, lived in Arizona, and it's flat in Arizona. And
I was going to say, that seems like a good spot to do it.
Yeah. So here in Austin, I could not get contact with a friend of mine who lives 4 miles away, and we both had towers and both had very expensive, very high-powered ham radio equipment and couldn't make it work. So if you want to talk to your friend in an emergency, buy a satellite phone. That's the answer. No walkie-talkie is going to get you there. Now, There is HF radio, which is like shortwave for talking to other countries and stuff like that. And I have done that. I talk to California regularly. Like, it's boring. California, Florida. I hit Paraguay once, which is 5,000 miles away, but it's not repeatable because the signal goes up into the atmosphere and bounces back down. And
it kind of lands where it lands.
And kind of lands where it lands. It's very, very, very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult to consistently hit the same place. It's like shooting pool and you're doing the bank shot. It's very difficult to get the same shot over and over and over again. So it's possible, but it's not something you can just buy and just do. Like, it's a big wire antenna. I have a video on my channel of my big wire antenna in the backyard, that's 30 feet up in the air for skipping signals and stuff like that.
But are you able to maintain a conversation with somebody for that period of time that you're kind of connected, or does that even vary?
It depends. It depends upon the phases of the moon and the weather and space atmosphere. So sometimes that connection will stay up for 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour. The hams call it like when the skip opens up. So sometimes you get a really good skip, and I hit Japan and satellite. Do you need a dish for transmission? No, there's actually one on Amazon Spot Messenger on sale for $250 right now. It's Bluetooth. It turns your phone into a satellite phone. So you Bluetooth into this little thing, and it's like this big. And then it's for text messaging. Yeah, it's $20 a month for like 50 messages, and then you text through your phone through that to whoever. So. Satellite phone is the right answer. I am a ham. My wife is a ham, but yeah. And then the other thing,
and eats ham.
And she eats ham. So the other thing is, there's in the ham world this thing called repeaters, and repeaters are kind of like a cell phone tower. So yes, I can use this little handheld and talk to a town called Buda, which is like 50 miles away, because it's bouncing through that repeater tower. But there are thousands and thousands of ham operators in Austin, and there's only that one repeater. So you imagine 1,000 people trying to hit that one repeater to talk to all their friends all at the same time. It's like evacuating Florida during a hurricane down a one lane highway. So, and if that repeater loses electricity, then you're SOL. So the radio question comes up literally every 2 days. What walkie-talkie do I buy to talk to my friend 50 miles away? You don't buy a satellite phone. That's the answer.
So I put this post up. So yeah, in Philadelphia. So we were talking about this before. I guess they're having an issue with the water.
Yeah, I think the Philadelphia was the chemical spill in the lake that was the drinking water. If I recall correctly, that was the situation.
Oh God, that's horrible.
Yeah. So a wife apologized for teasing me. So again, this guy was a prepper.
Yep.
His wife was not. She's been teasing him for years, and he had 70 gallons of water bricks under the bed. What's a water brick?
A water brick is a plastic jug for storing water. Like I said, they're 3.5 gallons. They're like the size of a large shoebox. They're pretty expensive. They're very durable, but they're very expensive. I prefer aquatainers, but it's a water storage cube.
When you say expensive, how expensive is it?
I don't even remember. I want to say they're like $30 a piece, but don't quote me on that. I remember.
And they're obviously refillable, right?
Yeah, and they stack like Legos. They're built to stack like big Lego bricks for storage, which is kind of cool. My preference is a thing called an aquatainer. You can get them at Walmart or at Academy. They're 7 gallons and they're about $20. They used to be 10, but now they're between 15 and 20. And think about, so water weighs water weighs 8 pounds per gallon. So think about that. So that 7-gallon jug weighs about 60 pounds when it's full. And I'm not a real big guy. So that's about the limit that I can pick up and move around. But the aquatainers have a spout inside of the lid, unscrews. We'll come back to that. So it's not useless. No, it does get stale, but you just swish it back and forth. So the aquatainers, you unscrew the lid and there's a spout on the inside that you take out and you turn around and put it back in. So yeah, this is when my wife stopped kind of giving me grief about being a prepper. So a couple years ago, we had a boil water notice in Austin. It had never happened before. And so everyone on Facebook is posting pictures of them like boiling water on their stove. And I just pulled out my jug and put it on the counter and like, okay, Done.
So you had your water stored from whenever.
Not
So
like
so the storage, how long can you keep water in an aquatainer?
So indefinitely. So to answer the question, does water get water water gets stale if you store it for more than like 6 to 12 months because there's no oxygen in it and it just kind of tastes kind of funky. So what you can do is you can pour the water
dangerous to drink. Like,
it's not dangerous, and I'll come back to that. It's not dangerous. It just tastes weird. So you pour the water into a jug, and then you pour that water into another jug. You just kind of swish it back and forth to kind of get some air into it, some oxygen into it, and it makes it taste better.
It's like swishing your wine.
So there's a debate as to whether or not like algae and stuff grows in it. People typically put bleach in their water, and this is
in their drinking water.
Yeah, in their drinking water. So it's like 8 drops per gallon. Don't quote me. Look it up on ready.gov, or actually if you buy a bottle of unscented Clorox, it actually gives you the formula on the back of the bottle.
Interesting.
It tells you how much to use. But I trust the water supply here in Austin, so I do not bleach my water. They also make, if you have a 55-gallon drum, they make special additive because you don't want to have algae and stuff grow in it. It's a good rule of thumb to cycle that water every year. You know, some people do it every 6 months, every year, dump it out and refill it. You have to make sure you're using the right container, that the right type of plastic, so that way the plastic doesn't leach into the container. You know, the whole microplastic thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Stuff, yeah, but if it's a container for drinking water, you'll be fine. Just don't use milk jugs because the plastic deteriorates. Big no. A lot of people like to use 2-liter soda bottles because they're made for liquids and they're stable and you get to recycle them. I did the math on it, and that's not cost effective. Like, if you really want to be cheap, you can go to Walmart and buy a 1 gallon. No, because that's out. I wouldn't waste the vodka on my water storage. I'd be using the vodka for other things.
Yeah,
but you can buy a 1 gallon jug of water at Walmart for $1. So do the math: 2 gallons of water per person per day times $1 at Walmart. But I think, you know,
how long are those jugs shelf stable for? Don't those break down? Or
no, if you get like the Ozarka brand, they're fairly stiff. Like, you can kind of poke a water jug at Walmart and kind of see if it's flimsy or not. You know, like the Walmart,
like the Great Value bottles. Yeah, those are always
not so much. But I actually really like the Ozarka, the round Ozarka 1 gallons. They're pretty stiff, and I keep a couple of those laying around. If I go hiking or something, I'll just grab it, throw it in the car. But they're pretty well made.
Great question came in from Tiberius. Which continent and region is easiest to be a prepper in during an apocalyptic event?
New Zealand is the big realm for preppers. So that's where all the billionaires have their underground bunkers, is in New Zealand, apparently.
Why is that? Based on the climate, the elevate, like what's the seclusion? Like,
I think it's kind of like they're not like a very politically intensive country. Like, you don't hear about like China wanting to nuke New Zealand. Like, they're just kind of neutral. They have fairly tight immigration policies. Like, they don't let just anyone in there. It's very pretty. It's where Lord of the Rings was filmed, so it's a very pretty country.
Yeah, I have a friend from there. He doesn't shut up about it.
Is his name Brent?
His name's Steve Wrigley.
Brent?
Comedian extraordinaire.
No Brent?
Nope.
Oh, thought it was Brent.
But I have lived in other countries, been to other countries and stuff like that. You know, America has a lot of resources. You know, think about North America as a continent. You know, we obviously have a lot of water, we have minerals, we have game, we used to have industry. But, you know, North America is not too bad. But New Zealand is apparently where all the billionaire preppers go to build their bunkers.
So if you had to choose, it kind of brings me to this one. You have to choose one region of the United States to live out doomsday. Where would it be? Would it be a hot climate, snowy climate? You know, I think with snow, you always have water, right? You can always keep your hunted meat, your food cold, right? But in the heat, which is more difficult, I guess, is my question. To deal with the hot temperatures or the cold temperatures?
Man, that's really tough because there's so many variables. Like, so like I saw this guy's post about Las Vegas, and the first thing I thought of was solar. Okay, yeah, I've been to Vegas. You know, it's 130 degrees there, but the sun is always shining. So if you stay in the shade and you have solar panels, you've got electricity sort of solved. So I don't know. After being cold, like 40, 50 degrees cold for a week, I really don't want to be cold again. Uh, I'm sort of, and you know, you're laughing in Minnesota up there, and my relatives are laughing in Minnesota right now. If I had to pick, I would say hot over cold, but man, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, I love Survivor Man. If you ever seen Survivor Man, it's fantastic. If you haven't, you should. And the one of the few times that Les Shroud tapped out was when he was in the Sahara, and it's like 2:00 in the morning, and it's still 95 degrees. And he's in his camera. You see his eyes just go blank, and he's just doing the 1,000-yard stare. And he looks at the camera, he's like, I can't do this. I'm done. And walks out and goes to his backup crew, and they pull him out. He's like, I can't cool myself down. There's no resources here. I'm done.
Yeah, like I wouldn't think Vegas would be a good, considering how much water they have to likely pump into Vegas. I don't think that'd be a good place to kind of.
Vegas is going to be like a freaking barter town.
Yeah,
in like a month.
The water situation in Arizona and Vegas is really bad right now. Like Hoover Lake Mead and Hoover Dam is like barely above where it can produce electricity. So yeah, it's serious business. I am happy I am not living in that area, because the water situation is going to get real bad real soon.
In the event of an apocalypse in Vegas, how long before the last guy on the street handing out the business cards? When does the last one give up? Are we like 3 days, 5 days? In your professional prepping opinion.
God. Well, you know, I said, having been to Vegas for trade shows and seeing those people hand out those business cards, you know, they are committed. You know, they'll be the fiddler on the deck of the Titanic. You know, that guy will probably be there 2 weeks out. You know, as the Walking Dead are crawling towards him, like, hey, you know, here's my business card. So
if those guys have a subreddit, I want to find that, and I want to have them on an upcoming show. I want to know
business card passer outers.
I want to know their story.
Oh yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
they are the most aggressive people in the world. Dave Dalifer, thank you, Bird, for the $5. Is Stuttering John's bathwater called heavy water?
I ain't drinking it,
Scott. That one's not for you.
Scott, where do you stand on seeds? What's the deal with seeds and prepping?
So it's kind of this it's twofold. So this is where prepping, you've got these like concentric circles of prepping and off-gridding and homesteading, you know, which is funny. Like I went to Earth Home Fair here in Texas, in Belton, a couple of years ago, and it was this weird mix of like hippie off-gridders and survivalist Unabomber off-gridders. So, and they're like, both want the same thing for different reasons. So people want to buy seeds, heirloom seeds, so that way they can grow their own food. Number one, because the price of groceries has gotten ridiculous. And also, like, if the whole system collapses, they can grow their own food.
So heirloom means it will produce seeds that produce seeds.
Correct. Okay. Because thanks Monsanto, who have genetically engineered seeds that will only grow once, but will not produce seeds that will produce seeds. So yes, you want organic, normal, non-GMO seeds. So that way they will produce year after year. Correct. So gardening is black magic. It's hard. I have tried. I have built gardens, and I have tried to do the potatoes in a bucket thing. It's hard.
We don't like buckets.
So if you want to buy seeds and you think you're going to grow your own food during the apocalypse, get started now, because there is definitely a learning curve. I am very supportive of it. I wish I had enough property that I could try it again. It's hard to do. But it's fun. It's a fun challenge, and it's fun to plant seeds and to get a book and see what grows in your climate and what grows in your area. So I encourage it. I think it's fun to do, and I wish I could, but it's like using a radio. Like, people think that they can just buy a Baofeng and talk to their friend 50 miles away. Like, it requires practice. Like, you have You got to try it. You got to use it. You got to learn because you're going to fail a whole bunch.
Shout out to the farmers.
Thank you,
Yes.
there. The $2, Michael C. The potatoes are real potato. And a fun fact about potatoes: if you have a potato sprouting in your pantry, just throw it in the ground.
Yes, absolutely.
You'll get more potatoes.
Throw it in. You get a 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot and fill it full of dirt and put the potato inside of it and spray some water on it. And in 60 days, you'll have a whole bunch more potatoes. In theory, I tried it; didn't work for me. But yeah.
Scott, are you familiar with the game F, Marry, Kill?
Yes.
Okay. This one came in from Slunk. F, Marry, Kill, Scott. Les Stroud, Bear Grylls, or O.J. Simpson?
Is
it O.J. Simpson or is there a survivalist Simpson?
He wrote O.J. underneath it, so I'm guessing he meant O.J.
Oh man. I would kill Bear Grylls for all of the harm that he has done. I think
Bear Grylls is the one that
drinks his own pee.
But wasn't he the one that was also caught like staying in hotels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bear Grylls.
He was. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. So Bear Grylls is the man versus wild guy, and he gets naked and drinks his own pee in every episode. And then goes and sleeps in a hotel at night. So, and it's a shame because Bear Grylls, if you read his bio, he really was in the British SAS. He really was in Special Forces. He really did climb Mount Everest, but he's got a pretty face. And so he got these deals to do this TV show. But the stuff that he tells people to do on TV is just utter garbage. And the real prepping teachers like Les Shroud hate him because he's just recommending the most ridiculously stupid stuff. So Bear Grylls has got to go. He can go back to making his watch ads. Les Shroud, I would marry him because I think he's amazing. I'm a big fan of Les. Great dude. I'm not gonna F
so that
the
means
Simpson, but
so you're gonna just a piece of advice: if you're going to F O.J. Simpson, be careful, he gets attached.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just don't F anyone else afterwards.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't leave any glasses in any restaurants.
No glasses, no jackets. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't think I had to say it, but do not drink bleach.
No.
What our guest was saying was you can keep your water disinfected by adding a certain amount of bleach.
Yes.
Bleach as prescribed by.
Yes, it's
the
on the
good
bottle.
folks at Clorox.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ready.gov or the
Ready.gov.
CDC will tell you what the formula is. So there are resources out there. Don't drink the bleach, but yeah, there's a formula for how many drops of bleach you put in a gallon of water.
So, Scott, we talked a lot about, the basics, don't prepare for doomsday, prepare for Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's the message we're putting out there tonight. Yeah. At least that's the message you're going to get from Texas Prepper Projects. Yeah. And you can find them on YouTube, by the way. Just a reminder for everybody. We'll get another plug-in for you. What's your biggest fear? What's the one that's got you nervous?
Power grid. That's when I answer the question, like what keeps me up at night. I mean, Texas has its own power grid because we're Texas, and
you guys don't run that right.
Yeah. So yeah, Texas has its own power grid, and we had the freeze a couple of years ago, and then last summer we had these warnings from ERCOT that it was too hot, and they had plants offline, and they asked us to turn our air conditioners off because the grid was about to collapse. So I am concerned about another grid collapse in Texas. I'm waiting for it to get over 100 degrees here, and I'm just waiting for it. So that's the big one. That's the one that of all like the emergency stuff, power grid collapse in Texas for extended period of time is yes.
What is the Cleveland transformer problem? I've
well,
pop up a couple times.
There's Cleveland, and then there's the North Carolina. So this dovetails into the power grid. The North Carolina power grid shooting, that one's got me worried. So that was a couple of months ago where a couple of guys intentionally shot a transformer at a substation in Morristown, North Carolina.
Oh no.
And took out the power grid to this town. And why we have not had a copycat event yet amazes me, but it's a high powered rifle and knowing where to shoot. It's not that hard. So
I have to wonder if there's like security and stuff at these places.
No, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, these substations are out in the middle of nowhere. It's just a matter of knowing where to shoot and having a gun powerful enough to penetrate, which is not that difficult. So yeah, grid collapse either because of mismanagement or because of a purposeful attack or something like that. So grid collapse is the one that bugs me, and I'm feeling pretty good about my power situation. Knock on wood, right?
All right, keep on bragging. Here's a question from our boy Wapio. He wants to know, let's talk turkey, guy. You drinking piss when it all goes down?
No, I would not. The way that the human body works, you are expelling stuff that should not be inside of you. So why would you take that and put that right back into your body?
Because it's all you have.
It's if it's hot outside. Cody Lundeen from Dual Survival, which is it was a great show the first season, said if you're outside and he lives in Arizona, if you're outside and it's hot and you're out of water, you have to pee. What you do is you pee on your shirt and then put that behind the back of your neck and use that moisture to cool your carotid artery and to help take that heat off of you. So
this is warm though.
Well, it won't be warm for all that long, but the way that evaporation works, when the breeze hits that moisture, it will make the inside cold. So yeah, it's warm when it's coming out of you, but it won't be for very long.
Good old piss neck Paulino.
Yeah. He said that's a better.
I told you to stop calling me that.
But no, there is no way that I would drink my own pee.
What about peeing on a wound?
No, that's wives' tale. No,
that's wives' tale. That's not a good disinfectant.
Yeah, and peeing on jellyfish stings and stuff like that. No, it's not true.
What about peeing on hookers that you have in the bathtub for $50?
Especially if they're bleeding. What do you do?
No,
nothing.
You weren't expecting that one, Scott.
No.
All right, you can refrain from answering.
Thank you.
You could I don't know what I did to Adam, the man 69, but apparently I'm a big sissy and I'm not funny.
Well, I don't know if you had to do anything for him to notice that.
Just be.
I guess. Cardiff, don't let the trolls and the haters get you down.
Never.
Hey, if you don't mind, I have a couple little toys here for things that I actually do recommend that people buy that are not millions of dollars.
By all means.
And I have stories for these. So when people ask me like what to buy, like, okay, end of the world is coming. Like, what do I do? Number one, this is a USB. This is a USB battery pack for a cell phone. There we go.
Okay.
This is from Ankler. That's a big name brand. This is a 10,000 milliamp, and they are very frequently on sale for about $20. I
have an Anchor speaker. They're fantastic products.
I use this all the time. I keep one in my backpack when I go to work. But I've had some medical problems recently, and I take this when we go to the emergency room, so I can charge my phone. My wife can charge her Switch. So I strongly believe if you own a cell phone, you should have one of these. Like this is simple. This is $20. Like everybody should have one because they are super, super, super handy.
And I would say have one of those, but also keep it charged.
And keep it charged.
Don't leave it in the box from Amazon and never touch it until you.
So it's flat, and you got the little baggie with the cords in it and stuff like that. So super practical because we use our phones for everything, right? Like your phone's got a flashlight, news and weather and stuff like that. So your phone is your whole life. So keep it charged. So a 10,000 milliamp will charge your phone about twice approximately. So you'll get about 2 refills out of this for $20. So
wow.
I tell everyone buy this, and they're great. So I'm an office person. These are great white elephant presents for like those office Christmas parties because they usually have a cap of like $20-$25. So I always give one out at my office Christmas parties, and everyone's like, "Oh, wow, that's so practical." Yeah, they're like $20. Like, why don't you have one?
Now, Scott, I don't mean to interrupt,
Yes.
but we did just get a $50 super chat, and I would interrupt my mother's surgery if we got a $50 super chat. So
Here we
thank
go.
you. Oh, we're both clicking it. Thank you, Animal Kelly, for the $50. If we're talking other prep outdoor boys, these guys I find insightful. Risky Charlie, Alaska Prepper, Blackie Thomas,
Risky
Wranglestar-
Krisky.
Risky,
Just not
oh,
Canadian
Risky,
Prepper. He went off the rails. Canadian Prepper went off the rails.
and P&W Gorilla. So these are all YouTubers.
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Animal Kelly.
And then the other thing that I tell everybody to buy, and I have a story for, is this. This is a emergency blanket. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Nobody wants that.
Ah!
Okay. So there's the cheap version of this, which are like 99 cents, like the silver ones. They're like the size of, a deck of cards.
Mhm.
They're very small. And if you breathe on them, they fall apart. So like they're just garbage. These are about $6 and they're much larger that actually will cover you. So absolutely 100% true story. So I built a little survival kit for a friend of mine who was an at-home nurse, and she was driving to a patient's house in her scrubs in November and went through a low water crossing that was deeper than she thought it was, and her car shorted out. So she's soaking wet in November in just her scrubs, like 2 hours from nothing. So she texts, calls AAA, and like, okay, we'll be there in 2 or 3 hours. Like, you're out in the middle of nowhere, we're busy. And she's soaking wet and doesn't have a jacket on. She had one of these in her little survival kit that I made for her, and she wrapped up in this thing like a burrito, and it kept her warm until the tow truck guy got there. And she told me later that when the truck driver got there, he saw her shivering, and it scared him so badly that he took his own jacket off and put on her to warm her up. But she was a nurse. She said if she didn't have this, she probably would have gotten hypothermia. She probably wouldn't have died, but she would have had to go to the hospital.
So it doesn't necessarily keep you warm, but it keeps you from freezing.
Oh, no, this will keep you warm. It's like, wrapping up in aluminum foil. So what it does is it reflects your body heat back onto you, and you'll be very warm. They're $6. They are one Starbucks. This is $6. We'll say, I actually have a YouTube short called "Is Your Life Worth $6?" This is $6, and it will save your life. So everybody should have at least one of these in their car.
Do you have links to any of these things that maybe you could send me that I can put in the description of this video for people?
Sure. And also, if you go into my channel, I've got links in my channel descriptions. But I'll kick you some links.
Folks, please definitely check out Texas Prepper Projects on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. There's so much useful information here.
At Texas Prepper Projects?
Yeah.
I had it up there somewhere. Yeah, at Texas Prepper Project. You got lots of videos. Scott, all I can say is thank you. You've been a wonderful source of information. Again, I think this is, as I said, there's probably two. I think most people think of the bomb shelter preppers. Most people think of the guys in fatigues with a million guns. They don't really think of you as the example of preppers. But no, this has been refreshing food for thought.
With all the crazy stuff that's been happening last couple of years, why would you not be a prepper? There's just so forget about asteroid impacts. It's been a crazy couple of years. These are things, there's stuff happening every day that sucks, but you can kind of mitigate, and you don't have to spend millions and millions of dollars. I'm not a millionaire. I try to be thoughtful, and I prep for the things that I think are reasonable and are within my control. And if you're someone who likes to camp, you're 85% the way there. We had some friends down the street, the Texas Freeze, and they're not preppers, but they're campers. So they just camped in their garage with, Canadian prepper. And they just camped in their garage. And it wasn't that big of a deal. So Canadian prepper. So this guy apparently
Scott's about to cut a promo.
He used to be pretty good, apparently. And then when COVID happened, he went big time off the rails. And with my channel, I'm trying really hard to not be a doom and gloom guy. Canadian Prepper, every day he posts a video that says 10 things to buy before the apocalypse this weekend. Affiliate link below. Like, it's literally every day, buy these 15 things from my website before the world ends. And it's just it's like the Patriot survival food. It's doom and gloom, fear mongering to drive people to their marketplace. And so yes, I do have affiliate links on my channel, but I also have a video showing that I own every single one of the things I recommend.
Okay.
I own all of them. So
you stand behind them.
If something is crap, I'll tell you it's crap. And I'll tell you the reason why I bought this over this. So yes, I have some affiliate links, but I will stand behind all of those things. Let's see if these other guys if their basement is really filled with the food that they're hawking.
Good news, Scott. People are already subscribing. Tiberius subscribed to your channel.
Thank you.
Thanks for supporting what Scott is doing over there, Tiberius. That's great of you. And Animal Kelly. News. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cardiff.
More good news. Apparently I'm committing welfare fraud. So thank you, John's Whippet Can.
Okay. Animal Kelly. Another thing with prep is about, are you willing to hunker down in one spot or pack light and travel? What an interesting thought. I never really thought about that. Do you want to be one of those nomads like Scott is imagining in his braid?
No, stay home. So this is the big prepper debate, the bug in versus bug out. I would be hard pressed to think of a situation that I would hit the road for. It would have to be, my life would have to be in imminent danger. And even that's kind of iffy. I was actually watching Godzilla with a friend, and they asked me, like, if Godzilla was marching through Austin, like, would you stay or would you go? I'm like, the chances, all my preps are here at home, and I don't have a huge truck to pack it all up. Yeah. So,
and how many times do you have the opportunity to see Godzilla?
Like, let's hang out, and I'm gonna live stream Godzilla. But I think the only time I would really bug out would be if I lived on the coast of Florida and I saw a hurricane coming. But all my gear is here. So these people who are obsessed with their bug out bags, where are you going? Where are you bugging out to? Oh, to the woods.
I feel like it might not be a terrible idea to be ready for both.
Yes. And so, like, I have an emergency binder with, like, copies of my driver's license and my passport and stuff like that. Like, if the house caught on fire, that would be me evacuating. The house spontaneously combusts. I grab the cats, I grab the wife, run out the door in, my underwear. Okay. Yes, I'm evacuating.
Don't forget her switch.
And the wife's switch.
She needs a switch.
Because Animal Crossing will not wait for any apocalypse. But you get in the car and, like, you go to a hotel and you go and then you get over it. So yes, there are some things you can do for quickness. But this goes back to my what are you preparing for? The people in Ohio that had the chemical truck explosion, they had to leave. I mean, they weren't planning for that. So do your own kind of threat assessment as to what are you worried about. A nuclear plant blowing up behind you, that would be an excuse to leave. But if you really do have your intention is to bug out, where are you going? And if you're going to leave, you got to leave before everyone else in your town so you don't get stuck on the road. So think your way through this process. Don't think I'm just going to grab my backpack and wander off into the woods like Book of Eli and Denzel Washington and Book of Eli. Like, have a plan.
Scott, I have a feeling we're going to end up visiting that other Reddit page that you recommended at some point.
Collapse.
Yeah. And I'm hoping you'll come back and join us for that.
I would be happy to, but just, make sure you are in a good mental health day before you start going through our collapse. Cause it like sometimes it's interesting, but it gets real depressing real quick.
So do we.
Another fun media to consume that I think really screwed up the prepping world. There is a TV show called Doomsday Preppers on National Geographic. Mm-hmm. And I think the first season was okay. And then they realized that they needed more crazy people to make the show more interesting. And it's the most ridiculous. They find the craziest people and they start with, I'm preparing for an F5 tornado to rip through my house in Michigan. And so I'm digging a bunker in my backyard by hand so that way my neighbors don't see it.
Cool, dude.
Okay. And I live in a single wide trailer. And
so why are you, if you don't want your neighbors to see it, why are you doing it on TV?
You do it in, yeah. So let's go on TV so the rest of the country can see it, but my neighbors won't see it because I'm digging it in the dark by hand.
They
at
can't
night.
afford basic cable.
Yeah, but they have 47 guns. This one guy, this trailer he's living in, the whole back room is completely full of guns. It's like you've got 2 people in your house and 57 guns. Like you're gonna put one on like each finger or something. So yeah, it's ridiculous. But unfortunately, the TV show Doomsday Preppers gave legit preppers a really bad name because they think that everyone's wackos like these guys. The one guy who got his spin-off show, this guy was concerned about the end of the world for him and his like 8 kids, so he built a castle. He built a castle for his kids. No, because it's up on top of a mountain. It's so big you can find it on Google Earth. You can see it because he's like, I'm in the mountains of Appalachia and they got a spin-off show called Doomsday Castle, which turned into a reality show with all of his kids competing to see who would take over for him when he died. But it's so big, you can see it on Google Earth, and you go on TV to show the whole world about this big castle that you built. So there are some episodes are streaming on YouTube, but it's just eye-rolling, like it's ridiculousness. But that show brought what you talked about when we started about the guy in camo living in the woods, the survivalist versus the prepper. I think the TV show Doomsday Prepper really sort of muddied those two things for the general public in not a positive way because they put the most ridiculous people on TV. And so the general public thinks that anyone who's a prepper is a wacko like these people. And so now when you say prepper, you just go, oh, you're one of those guys.
What happened? And we're going to start wrapping up, but I want to ask what happened when the show The Last of Us, which did very well on HBO.
It's fantastic. Great show.
Was there a big kind of influx of people coming into the prepper subreddit? Like a lot of new members coming in, just seeing that kind of, again, I'm sure when Walking Dead started, there would have been a lot of people kind of interested in the apocalypse, but I think this maybe renewed that interest.
So I just finished Last of Us, and it's fantastic. It's really dark and really sad and really well done. It's everything that Walking Dead should have been. And I watched Walking Dead from the very beginning, and it got really bad at the end, but I loved Walking Dead. Whenever there's like a big event, like the oil spill or the water spill, then our preppers will get a big influx of people. So, and then you'll see like for weeks on end, how do I filter oil out of my water? How do I filter latex out of my water? Will a life straw take, this grunk out of this water if this happens to me? So whenever there's like a big major event, either like in the real world or if there's a popular TV show. So when Last of Us hit, there was kind of a wave of what would you do to prepare if the plague in Last of Us really happened in the real world? Like, how would you prepare for that? So there are these kind of waves of things that will bring an influx of people into our preppers.
Well, again, thank you very much for coming on, Scott. Again, it's youtube.com/@TexasPrepperProjects. You got a lot of great videos on there. And again, I think it's a lot of the common sense that you brought up today. So there's stuff that's good for everybody in their day-to-day lives. Again, preparing for Tuesday,
not Doomsday.
Yeah. Scott, I'm going to give you so much credit for not being insane. Thank you for coming on the show tonight.
but I kind of wish you were too.
It would make the show more interesting if I was a little kooky, right?
No, I believe that this is one of the more interesting, informative episodes that we've had the pleasure to do. So thank you again for coming on, and we'll see you again in the future, sir. We're going to say goodbye to Scott Cardiff. We learned a lot tonight.
We did.
Are you going to live your life differently tomorrow?
Well, no, I don't know. I think there's a lot of those things I kind of do already. I mean, I always have a stockpile of food on hand. I garden. I'm a gardener.
Okay.
Did you know I was a gardener, Vinny?
Well, you're a potato.
That's true.
I assumed.
I live in the dirt. But yeah, no, I think a lot of the common sense stuff I have a first aid kit. Like, I don't think there's anything. I think maybe water. Maybe water is a good thing to have. Just some water on hand, some jugs of water down, just ready, just in case. But what about you, Vinny? Pizzas?
Frozen. I got a freezer full of them. I'm just have to get a couple of those solar panels. Folks, thank you so much for everything joining us tonight.
You're listening to the
Oops. Sorry, that was Joe DeRosa talking about me.
Why do you have Joe DeRosa talking about you queued up?
It's Joe DeRosa, and you're listening to the Cardiff Electric Podcast Network.
It's my friend. I just hit my stream deck by accident.
Michael C., thank you for the $1.99. And Cardiff is a cannibal. Correct. Folks, you're great. You are the best audience anybody could ever ask for. Our subreddit surfers, aloha.
The Big
to our
Kahunas.
Big Kahunas. Thank you for your support. And we'll be back Monday night with a brand new episode of Subreddit Surfing. Until then, make sure you rate and review, like this video.
Yeah,
and,
like, subscribe,
share, do all that good stuff.
notifications.
And we will see you all again soon. I'm hitting end broadcast and we're out of here. Thank you. Good night.
Surf's